Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the woods of Idaho. If you're just joining me for the first time, my name's Jeremy. I'm a staff writer for thetruthaboutguns.com, and I also have the YouTube channel, obviously not as good as the written reviews, but it's mainly to supplement written reviews on guns and gear. Sometimes I do have videos that don't go on T-Tag, but in this case today, I really want you to check out the link in the video description below to T-Tag, thetruthaboutguns.com, for the full write-up on this. All of the graphs, the information on all of these muzzle brakes will be on T-Tag. What you're gonna see in the video today is just a recoil test. We've got the AR-15, it's an Adams Arms gas piston upper, which I've turned off, so it's not going to cycle on this sled that's weighted, and it will slide back on the yardstick behind the sled here to show us how many inches it slides. Muzzle brake test number 1 was done last November. Click the gun here to see that one. Also, make sure to go to T-Tag again for all of the information and the results. That test proved to be pretty popular, so we've gathered another about 30 muzzle brakes. This time it's just brakes and comps. I've taken flash hiders and separated those out. We're going to do a flash hider only test at my local indoor range with the lights down to see what kind of flash they all make and compare those. But for this, we are just testing recoil in the video today. Actual rearwards recoil energy. Information like materials that these brakes are made out of, size, weight, my personal impressions on what the machining and the finish looks like, what kind of finish they actually use, all that good stuff, plus photos and little descriptions, where to find them, links to the manufacturers. That's all in T-Tag. Honestly, the main point of this video is sort of as proof to show that I really did this, that these numbers aren't invented. You can actually see with your own eyes how each and every one of these brakes and comps does. Additionally, with the slow-mo camera setup pointing at the muzzle, you'll be able to see how much flash they each have, muzzle rise and movement and things like that. Although this rig is not made for muzzle rise, it's not made for testing anything other than rearwards recoil energy. Now, a couple of quick notes before we get right into it. First, just a couple of housekeeping notes. I have a yardstick down here. It is measured in 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to call out how far back the sled slides in 1/8. I'm not going to reduce those fractions. Please don't freak out, math nerds. That's because I'm reading them out. I think it's easier for people to watch the video and hear 2/8 versus 3/8 versus 4/8 than hear 1/4 and 3/8 and try to, figure that all out. I'm going to be writing it down in 1/16 because I can easily split these 1/8 and estimate it in 1/16 of an inch. So that's what I'm taking in my notes. I'm going to compile them in Excel, converted to decimal. So the end results in the graphs and the charts, those decimal places, that's 1/16 converted into decimals. We are shooting the same ammo as last time. It's American Eagle 5.56. This is full-powered 5.56 and makes a decent amount of muzzle flash, and it pushes out plenty of gas. I've kept a lot of brakes from the first test to use as controls or basis for comparison in this test. I don't think the inches that this thing is going to slide back will be the same, but I'm hoping that the percentages before in that first brake test and this brake test actually hold the same. And as long as they do, we'll be able to compare where these new brakes place in relation to the old brakes on the first test. Now, I know the first test, a couple people made some comments about my trigger release method, which is the pen of science. I am sticking with the POS, and that's because it worked. My results were extremely consistent across all 35 muzzle devices. The average between shortest slide and longest slide for 2 or 3 shots for all of them was 0.2 inches. It was very consistent, worked fine with this, and I've actually made it a little bit better today by using an Elfman tactical trigger. It is adjustable, and I was able to adjust the weight all the way down to about 2.5 pounds. So tripping it is actually very easy. It doesn't even almost move the sled, and I'm just barely holding on to it, so as soon as it recoils backwards, it just flips the pen out of my fingers. Again, I know it looks not scientific, and of course it's not. I'm out here in the woods. This isn't a controlled laboratory environment or anything, but the results were consistent. So that's it. That's the end of it, the pen of science. The POS is tripping the trigger today. That's about it. Let's do it. First up is 2 shots with a bare muzzle. 9 inches. 8 and between 5 and 6/8. Another control here is the A2 bird cage. 8 5/8. Eight 7/8. This is 2A Armaments T3 compensator. Just over 4.5. Four and right between 5 6/8. Well, if there was a most ridiculous break prize in the contest, it would go to the Ares Armor, Ares Breath that you see here. Oh man, the blast from that thing was awesome. And we are just shy of 3 2/8. Same measurement again, 3 3/16. Okay, next up, and probably second most ridiculous looking, is the Bird of Prey compensator. This one is built like no other compensator or muzzle brake I've ever seen. Definitely worth going over to T-Tag to check out the details on it, but let's see if it works. Between 4 7/8 and 5 inches, 4 15/16. Five 1/8. This is CMMG's SV brake. 4 and between 6 7/8. Four and just a hair over 6/8. This is Double Star's 3/4 inch diameter bullseye muzzle brake. 2 6/8. 2 and right between 5 6/8. So far, this big 3-chamber brake is our winner. This is the HPF, or Holding Precision Firearms Curse. Between 3 3 and 3 4/8. Between 3 3 and 3 4/8. Same thing again. Just to be clear, that's going down as 3 7/16. Holding sent us 2 brakes to check out. This is a smaller version of that curse. It's called the HPF Irish Curse. Seem pretty good for a single chamber brake. We're at between 3 5 and 3 6/8. Between 3 6 and 3 7/8. From JP Rifles is the JP compensator. One of the versions, they make them in different finishes, different sizes. This is the 3/4 inch outer diameter one in the nice shiny stainless steel finish. 2 7/8. 3 inches, dead on. Juggernaut Tactical sent 2 brakes. This is the long range one. Next up is the right hand one. To find out the differences, to see what material these are made out of, because they're the only ones in the test made out of this material, go to T-Tag, follow that link in the video description. 3 7/8. I can tell you from where I'm standing, that had the biggest blast and concussion for me so far in the test. Whoa. Oh man, that blast and shockwave is just insane. 3 5/8. Okay, this is Juggernaut's right-handed brake. much less concussion than the long range, and we came in at 4 6/8. 4 and between 5 6/8. Up next is the nitrous compensator from Lancer Systems. When I received this, I thought this might be the brake to unseat the previous champion. That first blast baffle is huge, and the baffle itself is angled backwards to direct the gas back kind of this way, which will pull the rifle forwards, at least in theory. That's one of the reasons that M47A2 was so effective. I should note that these ports on top are tunable. There's 2 set screws that go in there, and the brake itself ships with an assortment of them and a hex wrench. You can open up how big the diameter of the holes there are to change the amount of compensation for muzzle rise. That might affect recoil. I've installed the medium-sized ones, and I'm just going to leave it like that. All right, decent showing, right at 3 inches. It's not the new champion, though. Between 2 7/8 and 3 inches. This was the #1 most requested brake that I didn't include in the first test. I didn't get it in time. This is the Lantac Dragon. 3 and between 2 3/8. Same thing again, right between 3 2 and 3 3/8. Another holdover from the first test. This is the Liberty Mystic suppressor. 5 and between 3 4/8. Four and 6/8. Next up is a compensator from Manticore Arms. 5 inches dead on. Between 4 7/8 and 5 inches. This is the POF, or Patriot Ordnance Factory, 3-chamber brake that ships on all of POF's rifles. Bit shy of 3 3/8, calling that 3 5/16. Same thing again, right on, 3 5/16. Tied the Lantac dead on. This is another carryover from the first muzzle brake shootout. This is Precision Armaments AFAB Mini. And you know, until recently, this is actually the comp that I decided I would permanently pin to my barrel if I were doing a short barrel, 14-inch, that I wanted to pin something to make it 16. This is it. I really liked it, but it's been outshined by something that's going to come just a little bit later. That's between 4 2 and 4 3/8. Between 4 1/8 and 4 2/8. You didn't have to wait long. This is the one that I like even better than the AFAB Mini. This is Precision Armaments AFAB. I know they seem the same. They look pretty similar, but they spent a little more time on their computational fluid dynamics program. They tweaked the AFAB Mini. They changed it in a few ways. It's supposed to be a bit better in every way. Flash hiding, recoil compensation, muzzle rise, all that stuff. It's supposed to be a bit better than the AFAB Mini. So we're going to test it out. This is the Gen 2 AFAB. Between 4 3 and 4 4/8. Between 4 4/8 and 4 5/8. So this actually tested slightly worse for me than the original AFAB on recoil alone. But both of these are going to be appearing in the flash hider specific test a few weeks after this one is going to be published, and in theory this should hide flash better than the original AFAB. The AFAB was the Advanced Flash Arresting Brake. This is brand new from Precision Armament. This is the EFAB, or Enhanced Flash Arresting Brake. It's supposed to be better in every single way than the AFAB. I personally kind of like the looks of the AFAB better, but this one is supposed to perform like 6% better in recoil reduction. It's supposed to be the best flash hider on the market as well. They put a lot of work into this one. Let's see how it goes. 4 3/8. So far, that original AFAB is actually beating it out. All right, between 4 1 and 4 2/8. So compared to that original AFAB, we're 1/16 of an inch on average more in just 2 shots on this rig. Okay, big moment here. The champion from the first shootout is back to defend its title. This is Precision Armament's M4-72. It has the double star to beat, which did a 2 6/8 and a 2 6.5/8. And it does it. That's 2 and just a hair over 3/8. We're going to call that 7/16. Two and 2/8, right on. Well, the M4-72 is still the reigning champion. Okay, this is the small LMD from Precision Firearms. Just as a note, it looks very similar, if not identical, to the brake from PRI, but I don't actually know if they are the same or what the case might be. Excellent result between 2 6 and 2 7/8. This time just a bit over 2 5/8. Also joining us from the first test is the Rainier Arms Minicomp. Between 4 3 and 4 4/8. I should mention this is Gen 1 of the Minicomp. They do have a new one. Four and a half. This is from Rise Armament. It's their compensator. When they sent their trigger for me to check out as a very similar AR-15 drop-in trigger roundup or shootout, they sent this compensator as well. Let's see how she does. Between 3 inches and 3 1/8. Between 2 7/8 and 3 inches. I've always liked the looks of this Seekins Precision Advanced Tactical Compensator, which is also available in black, which would look better on this rifle. Let's find out how it actually works. Okay, that is 3 1/8. Between 2 7/8 and 3 inches. Another new entrant to the market, which is always fun, is Sector Defense. This is their MCS-4H muzzle brake. All right, first shot between 4 inches and 4 1/8 inches. That one is between 3 7/8 and 4 inches. This is from Smith Enterprises. It's the Good Iron brake, or Good Iron comp. Right on 4 2/8. Four and 1/8. This is the Spikes Tactical Dynacomp Extreme standard version. Extremely standard version Extreme Dynacomp. And that is 4 7/8. That's 4 and exactly 7/8 again. Pretty good for a comp. Visiting us the second time is Strike Industries J-Comp, or Japan Type 89 style compensator, which is modeled after, I think, a World War II machine guns compensator. This is very inexpensive. I think it was 25 bucks on their website, and did a great job the first time around, so I decided to keep it. I'm actually going to include it in the flash hider test as well. On the slow-mo last time, it seemed like it had very little flash. So this might be a great comp break overall. It also had very little concussion that I could feel, and it's very inexpensive, so probably on the budget list, this one would be right up there. 3 and just a bit over 3/8, between 3 and 4/8. Three and 2/8. This is another one brand new to the market. It's from Strike Industries. It is called the King Comp. One unique feature that it shows on here is these ports on the side are angled forwards at maybe a 30-degree angle or so. And the idea of that is to blow out any of the flash or fire that might have been otherwise created by the 2-port comp. So we'll see how that works. We'll see how she recoils. That is just right on 3.5 inches. Exactly dead on 3.5. This is from Thunder Technologies. It's called the Heartbreak. If you can't tell why from the video, check out the photo on T-Tag. Good result between 3 inches and 3 1/8 inches. Very nice, between 2 5/8 and 2 6/8. Also from Thunder Technologies, this is a 2-chamber version of the Heartbreak. Instead of that 3rd blast chamber, it has spikes on the front. Between 3 1/8 and 3 2/8. Two 7/8. In keeping with the Thunder theme, this is from Triangle Shooting Sports. It's the Benny Hill Rolling Thunder. 3 2/8. Right between 3 and 4/8. This one certainly has some blast and concussion and fire to it. I don't think it broke my slow-mo camera, but I did see that thing jump. Next up is the Troy Claymore muzzle brake. This is actually much more of a linear compensator than it is a brake. It's not really designed to mitigate recoil. It's intended to push all of the noise and blast, as much as possible at least, out the front, away from you, away from the shooter, and away from people next to you. But, of course, let's test it anyway, and this one will be in the flash hider shootout. That is 8 3/8, and I gotta say, it is very pleasant to be next to. That was really quiet, and I felt absolutely nothing, which is completely unique for everything in this test so far. Even bare muzzle felt more concussion than this. That is 8 inches. This is Troy's dual chamber brake, and it is designed to reduce recoil. Quite the blast from that guy. 3 5/8 right on. Once again, 3 5/8. Good news for VG6. This time you guys are not last alphabetically. Definitely aren't last performance-wise. This was one of my favorite brakes. It is really compact, but has awesome performance. The machining and finish are just flawless. Let's see how it does this time. And again, this is a carryover from the first test. Between 3 1/8 and 3 2/8. Same again, just shy of 3 2/8. All right, this is the last break in the test, but certainly it is not the last break in terms of requests from readers on T-Tag or on my YouTube channel. This is the Whip Machine MRE. Don't eat it, that stands for Muzzle Rise Eliminator muzzle brake. I saw this at SHOT Show. There's actually a video of that. Click here to see it. And since SHOT Show, it has been requested a lot. So, glad to have it. Here we go. Lots of fire on that one. Love that. Between 3 3/8 and 3 4/8. That time between 3 2/8 and 3 3/8. Well, there you have it. That was a long day of shooting, but a ton of fun. I really enjoyed doing this. I can't tell you how much fun this is for me. I tried to time it, so I was actually out here during the time of day when the temperature is most consistent, and it didn't fluctuate that much. We got really good results. Just like last time, I did a few through a bare muzzle again at the end, and the average was within 1/8 of an inch of the average that I got at the beginning. So overall, the test is looking great. And stay tuned, and actually you're better off going to T-Tag and that link again in the video description to see the graphs and the charts and all the other commentary and stats about these muzzle brakes, but I'm going to show it at the end of the video too, just on the screen. I hope you like this. It obviously, you know, a lot of editing, a lot of time getting all these things. If you do, I would love it if you gave it a thumbs up, subscribed, and shared it wherever for folks who are looking, maybe they're in the market for a muzzle brake. Also, you know, link to that first test as well. I think the most important part, though, of actually going over to thetruthaboutguns.com is that I'm going to use the percentage reductions from this one to compare against the percentages of the first test. So everything, including all 35 brakes in the first test, are going to be in one big chart. And I'm actually also going to do a recoil reduction per dollar chart as well. Hey, thanks as always for checking out the channel. If you're new, please subscribe. If you would, that would be great. Keep an eye out for the flash hider specific test, which is going to lag behind this one by a couple of weeks. And I hope to see you guys on the channel here next time.